Well, hello. Thanks for coming back to check out another video. So, you might be thinking to yourself, Haley, what in the Lord's name are we doing sitting here looking at these 4 eyeshadow palettes? Well, let me just tell you, I have had this idea for quite some time. This idea was sparked specifically by these 2 palettes, but then it led me to think about these 2. So, I have these 2 monochromatic palettes from ColourPop, the On Cloud Blue and the Blue Moon. I bought these together to use them together, and I do. I get a lot of enjoyment out of blue eyeshadow now, and I think that these make for some really fun looks. But within these 2 palettes, there are some shades in here that I'm just not thrilled with, that I don't get a lot of use out of, that I don't really like this center shade right here in the On Cloud Blue. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but that is a pressed glitter. I am not going to put that on my eyeballs, so that shade can go. It got me thinking, why don't I just pop these shadows out? Maybe we can group them by color family. And well, I guess that's silly to phrase it that way because it's all blue, but we could group them by are these darker blues or mid-tone blues or more pastel blues, things like that, and swatch them out and maybe make my perfect blue palette, because it just, at the end of the day, it doesn't really make sense to have both of these hanging around, you know? So in having that thought, I then moved on to my 2 Lorac palettes that I have. I really enjoy both of these. This one is what the Noir looks like. This is just a really fun, cool tone palette. But at the end of the day, if I'm being quite honest with myself, this, especially these 4 darker shadows right here, I don't really gravitate towards. I don't want to use them. And then there's a lot of just samey looking shades within here. More so, samey shades come from the Fairy Tale Forest palette. Let me show you this bottom corner with these 6 shadows right here that make up this bottom corner. That's just a lot of golden brown type shades, and I don't need all of those in my life. So I thought I could maybe also combine the Lorac Fairy Tale Forest and the Pro Noir and make a really perfect palette. So that is what we are going to get into today. I think the easier thing will be to start with the ColourPop palettes. So you're gonna see me pop all the pans out. I don't really care about knowing the shade names and things like that. I'm gonna pop all the pans out, and I'm gonna straight off the bat declutter shades that I know that I'm just not gonna keep, like the glitter from in here. And then once I get everything laid out into a more grouping style, we'll start swatching and we'll decide which 9 shades we're gonna keep from these palettes. So I also have to say, here's my fancy magnet that I use. The ColourPop pans are magnetic, so this will be quite easy to get through, but I will start with the On Cloud Blue. So I did get a little bit of shadow transfer when I was popping them out. It's not a perfect system. I don't know if you can tell, but in this shade maybe that's more white, there's definitely some blue going on in there now. So I will clean that up and be right back. Alright, so I zoomed you in just a little bit more. I do want to say first, I have this single from ColourPop, which is one of my all-time favorites. This is called The Big 3. It looks just white on camera, but it has a blue-green shiftiness to it. It's super pretty. So I definitely want to keep this, and I don't want anything in this palette to be super close to that. So right off the bat, I am thinking this shade here from the Blue Moon palette looks pretty similar. And then there's one from the On Cloud Blue palette that looks pretty similar as well. So there's that, and then let's do this one right here. Okay, so I hope that you can tell in the camera. So this is the big three. This is the shade from the On Cloud Blue, and this is the shade from the, or no, this is the shade from Blue Moon, and this is the shade from the On Cloud Blue. So in person, they are actually all different, but not different enough for me to keep all three of these. So obviously we're keeping the big three, which is my single here. So it's this shade, and it has that kind of almost like minty green shiftiness to it. I don't know if the camera picks that up. But then these two, this one is just more of like a straight up kind of white, like inner corner highlight, which in the pan, it looks like it's gonna have a little bit of a blue shift, but it doesn't. And then this one from the Blue Moon palette is very much like a white base shade that has like a little bit of a blue shift. So to be quite honest, I would rather keep this one and get rid of the one from the On Cloud Blue palette. So that is what I'm going to do. So then let me clean off my hand as I talk to you. I think my next best thing to do, like these are still divided out into their palettes. Like this is On Cloud Blue, this is, or I got it right. This is On Cloud Blue and this is Blue Moon. I think I'm just gonna arrange these, like I said, by a more like the blues that match, like within a color family. Okay, so we have like 4 darker shades, 2 more like mid-tone blue shades, and then some shimmers here, and then some more like pastel leaning matte kind of blues. I feel like, let's see, we're only keeping 9 shadows. Let's start with the darker shades. Let me swatch all 4 of these shades out. Know if you can tell on camera, this is like a darker blue shimmer shade, but it's not like super impactful, so I can get rid of that one. It was this, I'm pretty sure this came from the Blue Moon palette. Like I said, I hope I said it, I don't really care to have like the appropriate shade names. I'm sorry if that really bothers you, but it's just not something that I'm really like conscious of, since I just want to build my perfect blue palette. So this is the shade right here. This is a very pretty, like this is a dark blue that I want. This would be great maybe with one of these other dark blues to keep and have like that kind of depth to the palette. So out of these two, it's this one and this one. I'm gonna have to re-swatch these. I don't remember. Okay, I figured it out. This one is this, and then this one is that second one. So honestly, the type of blue that I am going for, it's kind of surprising because when I was looking at these, like just in their pans, I thought I would keep this darker matte blue, which is this shade right here. But honestly, I like this one better. It almost has like a little bit of grayness to it, if hopefully you can tell in the swatch. I think I would get more use out of having this as my darker blue shade. So this one will be decluttered. This one was from the Blue Moon palette. It was the darker shade in there. The other darker shade was from the On Cloud Blue. You know, when I started this process, it was a little bit like prettier outside and had some like good sunlight coming into the living room. And now that we're here, the sunlight's kind of fading. So if the lighting is changing at all, I'm very sorry. I want to try to make this as true to color as possible. So these are the more like pastel leaning blues. I'm going to swatch these 5 out and then see what we want to keep from there. So far, we've only kept 2 shadows to build our perfect palette. So I've kind of stopped because these two are pretty similar. This one's more like a white gray blue, and then this one's more of like a kind of more like pastel leaning blue. So out of the two, I think I would just keep this white based one. So I can safely declutter this one. Okay, so here's these four. So I think keeping this light one makes sense. Like this will be great to help like blend out some of those more intense blue shades. And then this one, see, I don't know if it translates to you guys. I feel like in the viewfinder, this one almost comes across as kind of minty leaning, but in real life it doesn't. It's actually pretty similar to this. Like both of these are pretty similar to each other. Again, this one maybe you could say has a little bit more of like a gray leaning undertone, this third swatch here. So I think I'll keep this third one and declutter this one. And then here's the last swatch. So what I'm going to do, this one actually pulls more mid-tone blue rather than like pastel. So I'm going to clean off my hand and swatch this one with these other two right here. And we might have to go back through and like reassess the matte shades, because since it's only going to be a 9-pan palette, I kind of wanted 5 shimmers and 4 mattes, but we'll see. So let's swatch these. Okay, I messed up the order on the table, so I had to re-swatch this one to make sure it was the same color. So looking at these 3 shades next to each other, it's this, this, and then this. Honestly, I think I could live without this like more. It looks very much, it looked more mid-tone swatched against those other lighter ones, but then definitely swatched with these two more like mid-tone blues, it does pull more lighter. So I'm going to get rid of this one, and I think I will keep both of these. All right, my hand is kind of raw and red and a little bit blue leaning, so I will move on to swatching on my wrist. So let's move on into the shimmers. I'm holding the big 3 because I want to swatch this one first, because again, I want to make sure that nothing is like terribly similar to it. Hopefully you guys can see it in the camera, but there it is. I feel like since it's a lighter shade, I need to build it up to make sure you guys can see like what I see in real life, but that's the big 3. So like I said, the only one out of these shimmers that really looks close to it is this one. So again, I know we kind of already did this at the beginning, but I just want to make sure. Why did I swatch it above? Well, that's fine. Swatch it above it. It's a pretty shimmer, this one. And then this is the big 3. But honestly, I feel like I have something pretty comparable in my Club Nebula palette, where it's like, it's this kind of shade. It's a white base that has like a blue flip to it. So I am going to declutter this shimmer. All right, so I wanted us to start with a fresh, clean slate. Let's go into these 4 remaining shimmers. All right, I can just tell you right off the bat, I'm not sure which palette this is from, but like this shade is super underperformed. Like, do you see that? There's like nothing. So that's an easy decision to let this one go. Okay, you know what? I'm just looking at it. I thought I was going to make a very like blue shimmer heavy palette, but I ended up only keeping 3 of the shimmers and then 6 of the blue shadows, so that makes for 9. That was kind of easy. I'm gonna clean up my arm, and I'm gonna arrange this into like a pleasing color story that I want to like set it up in one of these palettes as, and then I will swatch everything out for you guys. something like this. Let's pop it into a palette. Now here's the real question. Which packaging looks cuter, the Blue Moon or the On Cloud Blue? I think the Blue Moon. And plus this one shuts a little bit easier. Like these plastic palettes from ColourPop, their snap closures don't really work all that well, and the On Cloud Blue is definitely more difficult to open and close than the Blue Moon. So alright, so here is what our perfect blue palette looks like. I really like it. I feel like I kept more shades from the Blue Moon than I did the On Cloud Blue. I feel like you can kind of tell that. Like this definitely has like a darker vibe that the original Blue Moon had, rather than the more pastel leaning vibe that the On Cloud Blue had. So in hindsight, On Cloud Blue was probably just not a good purchase, but that's neither here nor there. Let me swatch this out. There is my perfect blue palette, broken down from two palettes, the On Cloud Blue and the Blue Moon, into one curated, better color story for me. I'm really excited about this, and I like the layout, the way that I arranged it. I think that it's swatched. It's really pretty. I can't wait to get more use out of this now that it's just in one palette and doesn't feel quite as overwhelming. Just in case you're curious, here's what the like On Cloud Blue palette looks like now. But like I said, I have a home for this to go to, so I'm going to declutter On Cloud Blue from my collection. And even though it's a mix of these two palettes, I'm just going to reference this as Blue Moon from now on. Now we're going to move into these guys. So I think since these are bigger, what's a good way to go about this? Also, I've never like taken a shadow out from these palettes, but with the palette, it came with this little handy like key looking tool, and so that's what you're supposed to use to pop them out. So we're gonna try that method. I think first what I'm gonna do is just go through these and declutter the shades that I know that I don't like, that I'm not gonna get use out of, and I'm not gonna fool with like swatching them for you guys. Hopefully that's okay, but you know, what's the point of swatching them? I'm not gonna keep them. Okay, so just for reference, this actually opens up like this. I didn't know that, and I think you can like finagle this in a way to where you could make your palette like stand up if you wanted to. Yeah, so these on the back, that's what the little key is for. They have the holes just like with the Natasha Denona palettes, so I will just pop them out this way. Easy decision. I can declutter this. I'll probably hang on to this pan, to be quite honest, because I think it is magnetic, and maybe it's not. This was just a cream shadow that came in this palette, and I finished it off. Okay, I'm not really quite sure what I want to declutter from the Fairy Tale Forest. I know I'm not going to keep all 6 of these, but I want to swatch them out. I had a little bit better understanding of like this palette, the Pro Noir. So much like with the ColourPop palettes, I really don't care about like knowing the shade names and things like that. These are just palettes that I'm gonna use like in my personal day-to-day life. Like I never planned on like doing any type of like 3 looks 1 palette or anything with these. So I just got a bunch of blue shadow everywhere too. I think what I'm gonna do is just start popping all of these out and grouping them by color family. section right here is kind of like the bronzy champagne-y shades, and that is like the biggest chunk of these two palettes. Like a lot of colors fell into that color family in my opinion. So I think that'll be the last section that we tackle, just because it will be the most like daunting. Let's do these like matte creamy shades first, because does Haley need all three of them? Probably not. Okay, yeah, I don't really think, because these two are like lid creamy shades, and then this one is just like a really good like mid-tone kind of camely brown shade. My favorite swatching finger's getting a little raw, so I think these swatches are suffering, so I'll switch fingers for you guys. But I think what I'm going to do is keep all three of these, but only put one of these like creamy shades in the palette. The other one I can put in my singles palette and just use it up like organically that way, because there's no point, I feel like, in getting rid of a shade like that I could use. So all right, let's do these little groupings of like pinky kind of shades. So this one, I think these two are from the Noir, and then these two are from the Fairy Tale Forest, but I know for sure this one from the Noir is one of my favorite types of like kind of pinky taupey shades. It's just really pretty, so I know for sure I'm like keeping that one. It's a favorite. I love that type of shade on my lids. Told you I was going to switch swatching fingers, and then I really didn't. So this first shade here is for sure a stay. Like I said, that is just an all-time favorite shade that I have. And then this next one underneath it, in the pan, to me, it definitely comes across more pink. That's why I grouped it with these, but it definitely swatches as more of like a coppery bronze shade, and I am just not into those, so I will be decluttering this one. And then likewise, this one is probably the most upsetting. Like in person, this shade very much looks like a pink shade. It even in the Fairy Tale palette, they sit like this on top of each other. Do those not both look like pinky shades? But this one definitely comes across as more of like an almost red brown kind of shimmer, so I can easily part with this one. And then this last shade down here, again, kind of upset with these pink shades. They're not coming across pink like I think they should in the pan. This is, I would say it's pink. Let me know if you disagree. But this is it swatched out. It's really pretty. It's like one of those shadows that is pink but has like a little bit of like a golden orangey flip to it. So out of this little grouping, I'm keeping this last one and this first one. Let me just quickly swatch out these greens, because I don't foresee myself getting rid of either of these. Both of these did come from the Fairy Tale Forest palette. This first green is just so pretty. It's like one of those like dirty olivey greens. I just cannot get enough of that. And then this next one is more of like an emerald kind of green. But yeah, I really love both of those shades, so I'm going to keep both of those. That was a no-brainer. All kinds of red and getting a little sore. But there's like a lot of glitter left over on my hands. Anyway, so let's do these matte shades next. So there's these three like darker ones, and then there's these like, I messed up. There's like these 6 more like mid-tone kind of purpley brown ones. So I'm going to swatch these 3 dark ones together first and see if I really want to keep all of them. Actually, I'm going to move this chocolatey one to this grouping. I feel like that makes a lot more sense. These 4 and then these 5. So anyway. I feel like on camera these two look very similar, these first two, but in real life this one is more of like a reddish kind of shadow, and then this one is more of like a darker brown. This one is more chocolatey. I've tried to use this in my eyebrows and I didn't really like it. And honestly, this shade I feel like I have a dime a dozen of in my collection. So I can get rid of this one. That was the third. But then these other three, so like pretend this one doesn't exist. I don't think I need all three. I definitely want to keep this like more red shade. It's just so, I don't know, I've always loved that one. It comes from the Noir palette. And then so with these two, let me put the shadows like next to them, so maybe that'll help. You know, again, you have so many browns. They're like a dime a dozen. Oops, didn't shatter, so it's okay. Would I get as much use out of them? You know what? Even though this one is a brown and they are different, these first two, I think I would use them in very much the same way. So I can get rid of this brown. But then this is one of those great like mid-tone kind of browns. So I think I'm going to keep this one. I've not like been keeping count of how many shadows are in my keepsy pile. So we might have to do like a second round of decluttering if I have more than like 15 shadows or 18 shadows, excuse me. So let's go through this little grouping next. I know this one comes from the Noir palette. This was absolutely one of my very favorite kind of like lid shades. It's super light though. I don't know if you'll be able to see anything from that swatch, but I am noticing, is it too similar to like this shade that we kept earlier? I think these are pretty similar. Again, we'll see. We'll see when it comes down to it if I have space to keep both of these, but definitely my pick would be this one that already has like pan in it. I really like that one. So ignore those first two. We're just looking at these bottom four swatches with these pans. I definitely think this is a lot harder than you think. Okay, I'm gonna keep this one. This is the last shade here. It's like a really pretty kind of like mauve-y rose color. I feel like that'll be really pretty in this like this new Build Your Own palette. This shade I am torn. I feel like it would go well with those greens that I kept. But I also don't really get a lot of use out of shades like this. It's one of those like kind of gray green shades. I think you can tell. I think I could safely get rid of this one. And then there's this dark one. How many browns? I don't know. Oh, this is harder than I thought it would be. You know what? I'm going to get rid of this brown one because it's pretty similar to that other like reddish brown shade. But then maybe, oops, maybe it's not a good idea to like keep trying to balance things on your hand, but there's that green shade and the pan. And then this one was this one. I think I might keep both of these. I feel like on camera they look pretty similar, but one is like a cool toned brown and then the other is that like khaki matte green. I'm going to keep it and try to use that and incorporate it because I do think it would go really nicely with the green shadows. All right, let's do these two shimmers because they look pretty similar. I think both of them come from the Noir palette. There's that, which is really pretty. These shimmers just, they've really like updated their formula so nicely. Okay, so they are a bit different on your hand than what they look like, but to be quite honest, this one is super like dark and bronzy, and I just know myself, Haley is not going to want to wear this, but this shade is actually really pretty. So it's keeping this one and getting rid of this one. All right, so most of these shades that are left come from the Fairy Tale Forest. I'm going to switch to my wrist. Yeah, I'm just going to go through and swatch these and we're going to determine which ones we can keep. So far we've kept 13 shadows, which maybe we will get through this in one round because I don't need all of these. I can tell you right off the bat, just by looking at this, I would realistically only get use out of this middle one right here. It's kind of more like a rosy bronze kind of shade. These other ones are just super golden leaning, although this one is pretty. This one, it almost has, it feels like in person there might be like a little bit of like a golden with almost like a reddish flip to it. So let me keep this one for now. So yeah, out of this like grouping, we're gonna keep this top one and then this like third one right here. I'm so pale. Let me if you know what YouTube video that is, let me turn down the brightness maybe. I don't know if that really helped at all. I'm just gonna fix it back to the way the lighting was. Okay, now I can't get the lighting back to the way it was. So sorry that this isn't really working out, but these are, I mean, you can see from the pans, these are some very like light colored shades. They're gonna be hard to get on camera, and now that I've moved them, I don't remember which ones are which. Yeah, I do. So this bottom one is more of like a topper kind of shade, but I absolutely love it. Obviously there's pan in it, so I do want to keep this one. And then this first one is super pretty right here. It's like a pinky champagne-y color. I do love those. I can keep one more shade. So honestly, these three center shades, there's not really a whole lot of difference. Like I feel like I could just close my eyes and pick one, you know? So I think we're gonna go with maybe, I think it's this one. It's like a little, it has a little bit more of a pink hint to it than some of these other ones, so I'll keep this. Alright, so here's our palette and all the shades that we are keeping. I'm gonna do this upside down and see how it goes, but let's arrange this into like a fun little color story. So here's what our new palette looks like. I think with this one it was more of like an even split of like keeping shades from both palettes, so I will swatch this out for you guys. Okay, so it's a little chaotic looking, but yeah, there is the color story of this one swatched out. Maybe if we turn the lighting a little bit warmer. Yeah, it got cloudy like all of a sudden while I was filming this. I'm so sorry, but I had better lighting when I first started. Overall though, I'm really happy with how my two like new palettes have turned out. Let me open the Blue Moon for you guys. I think I did a really good job of like condensing, getting rid of some of those samey things, because you know, you just, at the end of the day, how many of those golden shadows did I need? But I feel like this is such a pretty take on like a neutral palette. Like it's dark and moody and has some like fun pops of jewel tone shades while also having like those more neutral shades, and it does lean more on the cool tone side. So really pleased with myself. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I now have an hour and 10 minutes worth of footage to edit, so I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.